Are we all set? Go ahead and call the meeting to order. Thank you all for coming. First item on the agenda is review and approval of the minutes from the prior meeting. If anybody has any additions or corrections, if they'd be kind enough to share them. Otherwise, I'd look for a motion to approve the minutes, please.
The motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Takes care of the minutes. And just a single item on the agenda here for the rest of the evening, subdivision of parcel and urban expansion zone for Byron Solar Project.
Sure, and I can just talk a little bit about it before we have our presentation. So I was approached by Carl Pierce from EDF Power Solutions. They have a role in the Byron Solar Project. You might be familiar with it, but it's a large solar project south of Highway 14. But the particular request for this evening has to do with a transmission line that leads from the solar field out to the Byron substation. So particularly, the request with the transmission line on a particular piece of property that's not within Casson city limits. It's pretty far out on County Highway 34, almost to the county line with Olmsted County. The route has already been approved by the Public Utilities Commission and everything, but just going through each of the landowners, they have to make certain decisions and everything. In particular, this one, they wanted to consider subdividing the lot rather than keeping just like a right-of-way easement for the transmission line. But in order to do the subdivision, they need to get approval from Dodge County folks. And of course, it has to meet all of their standards and everything. Unfortunately, the lot width is too small to be approved by the county directly. However, since it is within our urban expansion zone, the city does have the ability to approve the request. And so that's the reason for our meeting here tonight. With that, I can turn it over to Carl from Power Solutions, and he has a presentation for us.
Hello, Carl Pierce with EDF Power Solutions, as Ian said. Can you go to the next? You want me to go through the slides first? And then, sure. Okay, and then we can stop at any one of them if you want to. Just to talk a little bit about EDF Power Solutions, large power company. We're very active in wind, solar, and battery energy storage systems. This is we've done 26 gigawatts in North America. That's Canada, U.S., and Mexico. We're mostly active in the United States. Some of the statistics associated with the renewable power and some of the advantages of that there. Can you go to the next slide? Byron Solar Project, 200 megawatts, 345 kV on the Byron substation, just east of here. Dodge County mostly, a little bit in Olmsted County where our gen tie line, what we call a generation tie line or transmission line, goes over to Byron substation. We're about 1,800 acres so far. We won't use all those acres for what we're doing, but that's what we have under contract currently. Construction starts either later this year, Q4 this year, but it may slip into next year. That's why I put 26, 27 there. And then the operation time for the project is about 35 years. This is a map of the project that was included with the original permit application. But basically, most of the solar facility is down on the south side, and then we cross over the highway with the generation tie line and wiggles around and goes over to the east to the Byron substation. These are some of the setbacks requirements that we're adhering to associated with the permit itself. Some of the setbacks are a lot further than that. Project timeline, just to give a little bit of history, we started out here, we submitted our interconnection request with the grid system back in 2018. Then we began a land campaign in 2018 and started to sign up our land. 2019, 90% was complete. 2020, we did a project update, began the gen tie line campaign. In other words, getting the generation tie line easements locked up. 2020, we've got most of our land done, started to have public education in 21, submitted our state level permit in 21, and then got our permit in May of 2023. Again, we're hoping to begin project construction in Q4 of this year, and I can get into a little bit more detail on that. Start of operations then would be Q2 of 2029. It would take that long to get the project constructed, mainly because of winters, taking breaks during the winter, and then we'd operate for at least 35 years. Go to the next slide. This is the area that we're looking at for the Gentai right-of-way on that parcel. This is just part of the Gentai route where we do have rights-of-way already secured through easements for the rest of it. This particular landowner was not the original landowner when we negotiated the original easement, and so all the Gentai easements were expiring, so we had to renegotiate extensions of those in order to get them done. And this particular landowner said, I'd rather not have an easement, but if you want to buy the right-of-way from me, then I'll sell it to you. So in other words, in order for the project to be able to own that, we'd have to subdivide it first and create a new parcel and then buy it from them and own the parcel on that small sliver. It'll be between 100 and 150 feet. I'm not sure exactly how big it's going to be. It won't be any bigger than 150 feet, but it definitely is not a quarter mile, or is it quarter mile wide, which is the requirement due to the expansion zone. And so that's why I'm here asking for approval from the city to do that subdivision. It's not a done deal that we will do the subdivision yet. It's just that as I'm progressing and working with the landowner, I want to have certainty that I have approval before I get the agreement done with the landowner. Again, it's not our normal way of doing things. We normally just have an easement there that lasts for a long time. It's going to be basically a 345 kV transmission line that's going to go through here. But with this landowner and with it being the one last landowner holdout, then we're working with that person to enable a purchase of that right away. And that's what I have as far as presentation goes. Thank you.
Ian, why don't you scroll back up to where the solar field is? One thing to keep in mind is obviously we'll consider this issue, but it is interesting to know, we've talked about it a little before, the overall impact of this project on Caston's growth in the southeast is significant. So, it'll change our growth pattern significantly. We won't see growth in the southeast because of solar field pretty much blocking us to the southeast.
Right here?
What's that?
Further than that here?
Yeah, I mean, you're pointing towards Caston right now, but, so that whole area will pretty much be. So we'll have to change our.
The whole area. Okay.
Yeah, so we'll be looking at our focus will pretty much be to the south and west, once the north side gets kind of consumed. I mean, we're hitting the Orly annexation line with Manorville already, north of the school. As you know, like that, there's two parcels up there. There's one that Bigelow's developing right off the golf course road, and that's in Manorville, city of Manorville. And there's a parcel to the south that's for sale, and I'm not sure status has kind of changed on that one over the last couple of years. But that one is also in the city limits of Manorville, so really that's really where we're kind of stuck. So there's still a little bit of easy development land out to the west with Snows. There'll be a couple more, potentially Bigelow could do that or somebody else could, whatever. But then, once we get over, like the gun club road over there, the sewering is problematic. So you're not going to be able to get any further to the west after that. So anyway, just so you're aware of that. Staff reviewed this. Obviously, it's a ways out of the actual city limits. We don't see a reason to necessarily oppose it. It's a big project, and there's a lot of that the MISO footprint here. One question I had was, do you have an off-taker for your project yet?
No, but we're in negotiations right now.
Okay. And it's, I guess, what kind of capacity credits do you expect to see like on the MISO market for capacity?
It's a negotiable thing. We're still trying to figure that out. It very well could be between 10% and 30% of the actual peak output of the project. Good question.
Yeah, and you're running into the Byron sub.
Right.
Is that going to have any impact? So there's been another request from Excel to run another overhead power line, substantial power line from the Casson sub into Byron sub. You know, there's a solar field that's actually just northeast of where you guys are at, kind of on the county line road, which has grown quite a bit. We've allowed that to grow. You know, is there going to be any problems with any of that? Or, I mean, do you expect that to be pretty seamless?
Yeah, no, I don't, we're not in the way of that. In fact, we've just, Excel knows exactly where we are because we're crossing Excel lines, and we've got an agreement fully negotiated to be able to cross them. So they know exactly where we are.
And you're running your power into their sub, or are you running into Simpa's bank at their sub?
Simpa,
Simpa's bank.
345 kV side, Simpa side, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, the generation interconnection agreement will be with Simpa.
Sure. Right. That's all I've got.
What do you think is driving all the demand for this power? I mean, it just keeps coming and coming.
Well,
and
I mean, I
coming.
think you've seen the per megawatt price for these projects go up substantially the last 5 years.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you know, you might be able to get solar for 25 megawatt, you know, $25 a megawatt. Previously, I don't know if they're looking at 55 or 65 or whatever it is, because it doesn't have capacity. That's the problem, it's the capacity. So, I mean, you have this hard power, so data centers, just growth overall, think of Rochester. So Rochester is separating from Simpa, so they have to identify all the power sources. They don't have capacity, so they have to buy batteries, but they also have to get the power somehow. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to pair, you know, relatively cheap power, solar, wind, which can be relatively cheap. During the day, solar's great. Sometimes it has to curtail, you know, because wind has to curtail a lot around here. Even southwest Minnesota, it's even worse. But so they'll be doing the batteries. They already have a couple big battery projects they're doing in northeast Rochester. They'll bring the battery power in, they'll store it, and that's kind of how they're going to try and get around the lack of firm capacity. But
Gotcha.
I would say, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, the data center demand, I mean, 300 megawatts up at Pine Island, that'll gobble up a lot, you know, and that's another interesting one because they need firm capacity too, so I don't know how they're going to do that. But they'll probably have to have battery storage for a lot of it because, you know, a lot of the stuff that's coming out of the market is solar and wind, especially solar. But
Are you aware of the 2 battery storage projects right at the Byron substation?
what's that?
There's 2 battery storage projects right at the Byron substation. Are you aware of that
We're doing a
one?
battery storage, you know, storage project here in Casson.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Oh, good. How big?
So electric utility here in Casson too.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
anyway, you know, that's the only solution really to the capacity is you have to, because at night there's no sun, so you got to store the power when it's there. So interesting stuff.
Yeah, there's 400 megawatts, 200 megawatt projects right on the north side of Byron substation that have PPAs with Excel right now. So, and they've had their the PUC approvals as well. So, yep. Batteries going in.
Any questions for Mr. Pierce? Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So even though this is well outside of the city of Casson, you would like us to,
Well, I'm not
Vote
asking
on
you to make your decision. We didn't see a reason to necessarily object to it.
Sure.
There is a substantial amount of acreage between us and them. You know, I know Lynn and I were just discussing today likelihood of, you know, seeing projects in my lifetime out to that distance unless something goes crazy. It seems unlikely. You know, we're probably not going to hit that. That's already an area that's kind of in between us and Byron with the, you know, a lot of those folks who are in that area are not going to want to ever be annexed, I'm sure. You know, and without acquiescence from the property owners, it's unlikely to see, you know, acquisitions going out that far. So, you know, at the end of the 35-year period or 30-year period, who knows? Maybe they'll take it all out, or they'll renew it and they'll put new panels in. I don't know.
Sure.
It seems like it's probably outside of the purvey of that time frame for our expansion of the city.
okay. But in terms of actions from planning and zoning, you don't need us to do anything?
Well, I think we are looking for a recommendation
Okay.
for the city council. So city council will review this on Wednesday to give a final sign-off one way or the other. Then we can let the county know that either you're opposed to it or you're not opposed to it. In that way, the county will, they'll know what to do with the urban expansion zone.
So I guess with that said, we need some sort of recommendation, please. Somebody wants to try to articulate one. We'll wander through it together if we need to. And it could be simply as approving the project as presented or declining the project as presented.
One thing to keep in mind is the project itself, you know, is approved already.
Yeah, and I
So,
understand
you know,
that.
there's nothing we can do about that. And so
Well,
that's like I said, I mean, that's problematic because it's definitely going to be
Yeah.
limiting our growth to the southeast.
Well-
It's going to be interesting for the fire department because if there is an issue, I know you already sent some guys to the training for that, and that's something to be cognizant of. But this just being a power line, we're doing something
Sure.
relatively small tonight, so.
I move we approve the subdivision. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That would be our recommendation to City Council.
All right, thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome. Anything else we want to discuss tonight? No? Now I'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you all for coming in.
Thanks, guys.